Hello everyone, welcome to Thorgrim First 10 Turns, the legendary guide. So basically we're going to be playing Thorgrim Grudgebearer. He doesn't have a lot of stuff that actually helps on the early game. Diplomatic relations, upkeep for Longbeards and Hammerers, all of that is kind of like mid to late game. The commandments will take place very soon, of course, for instance, that helps. The leadership aura size kind of helps. It's something underlooked as well because it will help our front line stay together for a longer time, you know. But that's difficult to measure, you know. We're going to be going on legendary, very hard, minor fraction potential, and AI strength and threat assessment. Do note this creates a lot of variety. I'm going to try to explain precisely when that variety happens, so that you're a little bit more prepared. So let's start the campaign and check out the army to late game progression example. So basically this is how I like to progress. This is not the one that I'm going to be using at this moment. Why? Because I've discovered that you can actually kind of rush the Skarsnik early on, and you don't need those handgunners and onagers, you know, basically the grudge throwers. But you can definitely wait for that, and I'll show you an example in the later on in the video of what happens when you actually wait for those thunderers and for those grudge rakers. It's difficult to memorize all the names, but this is the sort of idea that I always propose. You know, that you have a sort of starting army, then you go into the mid game with that, and then you go into the late game with that other army. So that set aside, let's check the trait. By the way, you can always restart the campaign if you don't like the trait. In this case, yeah, I find it fine. Hit points, immune to psychology, good character experience, that's fine. You could have a little bit better, so if you want something different, just Google what the traits that you prefer would be, and then just find it out, you know, just try to save and reload as much as possible to get that trait. Now, this is a decisive victory and you can auto-resolve it, but of course, this being a guide, I really want to showcase how to do it. And Thorgrim at the front with the shielded units a little bit on the side of that crescent with the quarrelers behind, and moved way back. Because why? This is the unit of the early game. The gyro bombers will completely demolish anything that the greenskins have to send us against us, and you just have to be careful about their ranged units. So that's kind of what you prioritize. Now, why am I attacking the other orc boys there? A good question, because you don't have fire whilst moving, but you can kind of do it. Like, you can fire against these goblin archers. If there's only one unit, you can actually win the engagement, so just let them be. But because there are two units, I'm going to have to bombard them. And the best ability of the gyrocopters, of course, is the bombardment. I realize now that I should go against this unit because it's actually the orc Arab boys. So let's go for them and try to bombard them. Disregard the enemy missile fire for the time being, and try to micro a little bit so that you can get a few shots on. That also helps them to move together and clump up a little bit more. Just move past and actually either click on the ability or use the shift 1 ability, by the way, number, or you can actually use backspace to stop them when they are in the desired target. So I'm just showcasing, like with the movement, by moving my gyrocopters in front. Let me bombard again, just so that you guys can see how it works. Like, you can move like this and then backspace when they arrive. Basically, you're abusing a little bit of the skirmish from the AI. Because the units are on skirmish, they are going to run away from your gyrocopters, not gyrocopters, gyro bombers in this case, sorry, which is actually perfect for you. So all, as you can see, they're all on middle of their health. I'm gonna go bombard a little bit more. I should have waited until they are clumped up. There we go, just a little bit more damage. Now let's go against the orc Arab boys. Reason why it doesn't really matter in this battle is that they are clumping up or not, is that because after the orc Arab boys are destroyed, there's nothing really that can create any threat to you. So I just want to showcase that I'm almost ignoring what is happening there. I'm gonna lower their melee defense, that's fine. I'm gonna set up one of my quarrelers with dig in so that he can cause a little bit more damage, but that's about it. Everything else, it's just properly deployed, and my units will take care of themselves, allowing me to micro one unit, which is much better. You don't have to be a micro god. I for sure am not. So that's good. That's good. You don't really have to micro to the best of your ability. You just have to ensure that you at least cause some damage with that gyro bomber, so that you win the battle without suffering any casualties. Do note that even if you lose health on your gyro bombers, as long as all the entities survive, you're going to get the health back, which is great. Let's continue and fight over against these goblin archers, but I guess you get the gist of it. Just fight out against the goblin archers, fight out against the orc arrow boys, and overall you're going to be in a very good position to win the battle without suffering almost anything. Yep, as soon as they are routing, we're gonna fire on the orc arrow boys. Let's just wait a bit, tank a little bit of those shots. It's fine. They would need a lot of armor piercing because we have 100 armor. And as you can see, the enemy is doing basically nothing. Let's go. Let's attack the orc arrow boys. And I'm just sending Thorgrim against the enemy lord, as you can see there. You can send either the hammerers or the grudge or the longbeards with great weapons against the enemy lords, because they have armor piercing. They're going to cause some damage. As soon as they start wavering, just attack the other one, and this will quickly lead to army losses. In fact, I'm going to stop the battle video in a few moments, and it's just like 5 seconds before. So yeah, as long as the enemy lord is surrounded, he doesn't stand a chance. Lower his capacity to fight, and that's up. That's it. Very easy battle. Very easy battle. Now, you can replenish, but I prefer that you take the treasury and the oath gold. But of course, during the course of this guide, if you find yourself requiring replenishment, by all means, just know that you won't have as many units or as many buildings, of course, and that's the big problem with the guide, because there's a little bit of variance. Let's get grudge against the foul and deadeye for the engineer. The reason is that we really want to have the damage against the greenskins, or the bonus against the greenskins, and then with the engineer we want to reach the ballistics calibration. We're aiming at getting Thunderer as quick as possible so that our missile units do even more damage. Let's fight out another battle, and the same principle will apply. This time the idea here is to eliminate the missile units and the cavalry. I would auto-resolve this one, but of course, this being a guide, let's do the same thing again. Same practice, and it's also good as a practice idea for you if you want to practice how to use gyro bombers. This is a perfect campaign to start doing that. Okay, let's start the battle. While this is ongoing, do note that I always put my lord on number 1, my heroes on number 2 and 3, or a unit that I need to micro, like these gyro bombers, is on 3. 4 is always my missile infantry, and 5 is always my front line. 6, left flank, 7, right flank, and 0 is the artillery. Okay, I don't have any artillery, so that's fine, but that's usually how I like to set up, because that means that I use the same one for every single faction, for every single time, and that just helps organize myself. So instead of you having multiple ideas, let's take the advantage that they are clumping up. You can see the idea of doing so much damage so fast. You know, let's see if we try to ensure that we don't have to wait for these guys. Actually. And let's go against the other enemy missile unit. Just take a few shots if you can, just to ensure that you're kind of microing the fire, you know, between the reload time. You just try to hit them a little bit. Let's speed it up. We also want to do some damage to the Goblin Wolf Riders. They can do some damage to the Quarrelers or even the Dwarf Warriors when they use when they go on the flank. So we want them to just be a little bit reduced in terms of entities and in terms of fire. So right now I'm actually attacking 2 targets, the Goblin Wolf Riders, and I'm just moving to ensure that the Goblin Archers still are on skirmish away. Which I kind of understand, because I still have bombs, you know. Let's use on any of those. Don't worry too much which quarrel you select. I'm not really well positioned, so backspace And let's go. Drop a couple of bombs. Now I've shown a little bit better control of the bombs. Now a little bit worse, but that's okay. You'll always get a little bit better. As long as you're doing enough damage, it's fine. I see an opening for the Quarrelers, but I don't see the need to send any other units to defend. Dwarf Warriors can deal with most of the units that are here. Even Dwarf Warriors with great weapons are perfect to deal with that. See, that's where I missed. I whiffed a little bit of the bombs, but that's fine. Now I'm gonna send my troops, and I see a very good point where I can actually invade here against those orc boys and just drop the bombs. So that's exactly what we're gonna do. Unlike the first battle, they don't rout immediately, so this gives me an opportunity to use the bombers to the best ability here. So let's just drop all the bombs. Let's leave one. Yeah, they're routing already, so that's fine. And let me get these guys and ensure that they don't want to fight. Dwarf Warriors, they're not necessary. And you guys are going to hit the Goblin Archers. At this moment, I want to ensure that every single enemy unit is engaged so that we get a quick army losses. And thus, that is very quickly, as soon as they are all engaged in battle, they realize that they're doomed. And there we go. That's army losses, and that's a victory. Second victory, and we got our first settlement. Always pursue in the end, okay? Always pursue at the end of every single battle, so that you get a little bit more from loot, from post-battle loot. It doesn't matter what items we get. I'm actually going to ignore and disregard those. And what I want is actually not the gemstones. It's so easy to go for the gemstones. In fact, it gives me exactly the same amount of income as the trinket maker. So that one gives me a little bit less reduction in construction costs. So that's a slightly better option. You're also not going to have anything to trade with those gemstones any earlier on. So much better option in my opinion. Let's go for marching songs to get more speed and also less recruitment costs, and we're going to go all the way to militia training and the buffs to miners so that it helps your early game. Sometimes you'll need a secondary army full of miners, and that's how they are going to be very effective. Now this army, we are going to recruit 2 of those miners with blasting charges, and this army is enough to deal with that army and settlement. So let's go for it. We already recruited them. Let's gather the throngs. We really want that recruitment cost reduction. I always like to go military first. Always like to go military first, because in the early game is where it matters the most. You know, it matters that you grow, of course. If you believe you can handle the battles without, it's fine. And over here, if you want to fight the battle, by all means, it's the same thing all over again. Just abuse the gyro bombers. I auto-resolved just to show that you can actually just auto-resolve some of these battles. Let's demolish that building because we now have another barracks. And we're going to get another miners and start our production of dwarf warriors with great weapons, which is the early game really good unit that we can have. They're good against everything that the enemy is going to throw at us. They will die, that's for sure, if you're not careful, but the gyro bombers are there to lure the archer fire. So that's their weakness. It's archer fire because they lack shields. So everything else, it's up to them to destroy. So we're gonna see that there's no deals, and this is why I don't like taking the gemstones first. Okay, you can wait a couple of turns. Let's end up the turn. I already recruited some more units, and now we have 3 to recruit. We're always going to be in Mount Sworn because we want to reduce the control issues as much as possible. Overall, if not mistaken, I can get the control issues. Now we get the gemstones, by the way. We can get the control issues to be to not have a rebellion until we have to fight Skarsnik. So now we also get triangulation here for the missile strength. And the 2 buildings that I want you to get is Arms Forge for Iron Drakes and Thunderers. And I want to get the catapults. Now, the grudge throwers. I always call them catapults. You can also go for gyrocopters, okay? But I like going with the traditional side with Thorgrim. It's just more thematic. If you like to go for gyrocopters, this is the moment to do it, of course. Now, really check that location on the map, because that's very important. That's where we're going to recruit the 3 last units. Okay? We're going to check once more that there's nothing else, so we did right in going for the gemstones last, okay? And we could declare war on Skarsnik right now, but I prefer to have the full army, okay? I'll show you later on what happens, but basically we can take him out a couple of turns earlier. I don't find that too good, because you can struggle as well. Now, with this army, you're definitely very poised to attack, so what we'll do, we'll defend. Let's get to construction cost reduction as well. This only affects Dwarf Iron Breaker and Hammer units, the extra stuff, so when in doubt, select the construction costs. So,
before you says anything,
let's declare war on Skarsnik. That's the purpose of this whole initial premise. And let's end up the turn, and we managed to actually ambush. I do not believe this happens all the time. So this is the variance that can happen. But what does happen is that Skarsnik immediately comes against you. You know, immediately uses either underway or forced march. As you can see, they are in forced march, so that's good for us. So we have several units that we have to be careful about. Night Goblin Fanatics, the Arachnodox Spider, and the Night Goblin Squig Hoppers. Those are the tricky ones, especially good targets for your Gyro Bombers. Your Gyro Bombers should just go against the Arachnodox Spider. I'm going to show you in the ambush how I like to do things. So let's imagine this is not an ambush. This is exactly the formation that I want you to take. And I want you to try and ensure that you can skirmish with the Gyro Bombers before engaging with your army. It's always much better, because the more damage you can deal with the Gyro Bombers, especially if you can, you know, destroy the Arachnodox Spider before it reaches you, it's perfect. I've actually managed to do it on the first few attempts. This is one of 3 that I managed to ambush. So 3 out of 10, usually I test 10 times or around that number. So 3 out of 10 I managed to ambush. If not, they'll just still be in my vicinity and attack me. Or at least so that I can actually attack. Now, of course, I have the bombs and I'm going to abuse that as much as possible. This can also happen if you're fighting without an ambush. Notice right now he's just trying to deploy, and I'm getting a lot of value from these bombs. But you can always get a lot of value on the bombs if you have to choose. I would say the archer units. Why? Because they're very dangerous in prolonged fights against your dwarf warriors with great weapons, while the other units are not as dangerous. You're supposed to have them weakened with your miners and with your quarrelers, okay? While you don't get a lot of chances to defeat the enemy missiles like you do with the bombers. And all that I want is to diminish the health of that Arachnodox Spider. Be careful, there's a lot of units that shoot here. I'm going to try to rout that Goblin Archer and then realize, okay, hold on, there's a lot of Snortling Pump Wagons that I believe also shoot, so I have to withdraw with the bombers here. If you manage the ambush, always ensure that you withdraw whenever possible. You don't want to lose entities with the Gyro Bomber, because that takes forever to replenish, actually. So, let's move in with my forces. By the way, to do that, just select everything and Alt Move. Okay, and then use the arrows to move them. I believe it's Shift and the arrows. I do it so automatically that I don't know the specific keys, but there's a key to rotate them. That's what I mean. You can check that on the menu, actually. On the keyboard menu, it will tell you there. So just focus down on the Arachnodox Spider. That's the biggest threat to your forces, okay? It's not that you don't have other units to deal with it, it's just that it's the best unit for you to target. You can also try to go against Skarsnik, but on a clumped up position like this, it's very easy that your gyro bombers will fail the shots. While the Ragnarok Spider, it's such a big target, you can just hit them and there's no problem. Here we go. Let's attack the Ragnarok Spider again. I believe I can kill it before it does even anything. And even though this is an ambush, this is what usually happens on a land battle. You know, I can cause the AI to try and go against the gyro bombers, and the gyro bombers just keep turning away from the archers and hitting the Ragnarok Spider. And look at that value, 3000 value. I can actually withdraw the unit right now and it will still do a lot of damage. It still has done a lot more damage than needed. Now I'm suffering a lot in health, so I gotta be careful. Let me replenish the ammunition. Oh, hold on, they're still too far away. So yes, I do these sort of things as well. Now, he's just chasing the gyro bombers. That's something for you to bear in mind. Okay, let me stop him. Hold on. I don't need to move him away, because then he won't be able to fire from his position. There we go. And now just hit anything that you have in range. The Ragnarok Spider is a third of health, or even a fifth of health, actually. Prioritize getting the archer units, because, like I said, your quarrelers can do a lot of damage to anyone approaching. Get a reload speed. Get a dig in on someone. There we go. He's attacking again. So I'm just going to position these guys near the woods. And now, if you see a single entity, just attack him. There we go. Oh, the music stopped or skipped a bit. Sorry guys, I didn't notice that on editing. Now, it may look like they have broken through, but this is always something that happens with dwarves. They manage to hold. Trust the process. They manage to hold. Now, over here, we're just seeing that there's some fanatics and they're shooting at us. Great weapons are perfect to deal with the enemy single entities as well, because they have armor piercing. And I just leave one unit dealing with those snorkeling pump wagons, and I go after the big guns. So in this case, that Ragnarok Spider or those archer units, and that's it. Yeah, my archer units, they're dealing with that Ragnarok Spider. It's not a threat anymore. It should rout very soon. And now we're just trying to have one part is luck. And one part of this is luck. It's the Goblin Fanatics. If the Goblin Fanatics manage to go all through your line, it's a problem. So be careful with that. That's why I don't like to make, you know, a complete line of units. Because if they somehow manage to get a perfect line, it's a problem. Don't worry about hearing withdraws and anything like that. Usually your units will have more than enough to handle with the retreat. And all that you need is to focus on your missile units and your not engaged units. That's it. If your units are not engaged in battle, just make sure that you give them a target, any target. And as you can see, most of the enemy army is in shambles and fleeing. Some more Night Goblin Fanatics, they cause a lot of damage. And just lowers Skarsnik's threat. Be advised, for instance, if Skarsnik and the hero come after Thorgrim, he cannot handle it. You have to always have Thorgrim in the middle of some miners or someone with like hammerers or someone with great weapons and armor piercing, of course, to ensure that he survives. Okay, so just fight with your dwarven brethren and all will be nice. So this is about the most difficult battle, okay, in the early game. It's always going to happen, this battle against Skarsnik, and as you can see, it's quite easy to win. So, at this moment, here's the decision. You can actually replenish. I'll advise that if you're a new player. I'll try to use the treasure just to show you what happens if you don't, okay? You want them to attack because you're on your territory, which means that during the end of turn, you also replenish a little bit, okay? So if I had using the other replenishment, I would be nearly full strength right now. Okay? Let's get some more gemstones. Let's get the final one in Thunderer, so our quarrelers are doing well. Flash Bomb, it's always a very helpful ability. It just reduces speed overall. And right now I'm going to ambush because many times they move out. They will fall into two ambushes at the same time. What you want to avoid is having both of those big armies fight you at the same time. That's why you ambush, to try and have that level of control. Okay? So Skarsnik always has two full armies versus your one full army. That's why ambushing works really well. And it's just a matter of knowing where to position you. When selecting the lords, I just like to go for traits, but by all means select whichever lord you prefer. I don't have any choice on that. I just go for any traits. For instance, that one had research rate, yeah, or construction cost reduction. Yeah, that sounds good. It's actually more of a campaign action rather than a battle action. Any lord does really well. I'm going for some grudge throwers now that I have tier 2. And you can wait for that. This is a perfect moment to wait for that, if you wish. I'm going to attack to show you precisely an example of a difficult battle. This is actually not a close victory. There's a lot of mobility here from the AI, and it does seem like it's easier, but there's a lot of stuff here. There's a lot of stuff. I'm going to show you how to fight it and how to trust your dwarven units. So the same formation that we used previously, okay, always leave a little bit of some gaps. I don't believe I didn't speak about it. So leave some gaps for the miners in between the front line, okay, and just have the miners a little bit back so that they are protected. They're not exactly frontline units. They're units to go in once the enemy has engaged, okay? And if they target them, if the enemy goes against the miners, it's perfect because they're going to be surrounded very soon by your forces. So in this case, whenever you have one of these battles, don't rush it. Just ensure that you're dwarves. You're not a rush army. You're an army that really works well with having some skirmish with the gyro bombers or some fire done by the artillery. And then when the enemy AI approaches you, they are in a weakened state. And that's it. That's how the dwarves like to work. Only when you get to a point where you have some fast slayers can you start thinking of maybe a rush army, a vanguard deployed army, that sort of idea. For variety, I recommend, of course. But if you don't have that, don't worry. Just play defensively. That's how it works. Like, I'm not on a lot into the corner camping, so I try to ensure that the AI still has a way to flank me. Okay, I like to give him some chances, but by all means you can also corner camp if that is fine for you. I prefer not to corner camp too much, although on a battle like this I would advise it. I would advise that you do, especially if you're a new player. Let's go against these goblin archers. And there's a lot of goblin archers coming in on the other side, so it's not exactly the easiest job for my gyro bombers to do damage. I actually just dropped a few bombs, trying to do some damage. But overall, if you're really close to them, your shots don't miss too much, theirs don't miss too much, but you win the engagement. Now they're about to arrive and I'm about to go there to just try and drop all my bombs. Overall, this is working really well. There we go. I can even try, I just noticed that these are actually nasty skulkers. So I could get some bombardment there as well. But I don't like that they are in the woods. In the woods, they can actually dodge some of the bombs. So I'm just going to drop one here. And that unit is out of the game. There we go. Very easily, just go and try to fight against anything that you can. Your purpose is to do some damage and split up that damage so that when your engagement starts, it's much better. Notice the difference that my units are not fully healed. And that's the difference of that decision that I made previously. This is why I recommend that you actually replenish. Okay, if you're a new player, if you know how to do battles really well, then perhaps you can try to do this, okay? It's really difficult to try to make a guide and cover everything. I cannot cover everything. I can cover what is happening to me, and this is what mostly has happened on the last 10 times that I tried. You know, usually Skarsnik comes over against you and you fight him one-on-one, and then you have to fight the secondary army. And the secondary army, it feels like you've done it after Skarsnik, but you haven't. Like, look at this. This is a lot of stuff fast. So I'm just going to send him in and carpet bomb. There we go. A little bit of that nice damage. I just noticed now how many archers are here. And I'm going to drop some more bombs. And notice how my gyro bombers are really weak. Go into the woods because they help you out whenever possible. If you have a sort of map like this, go into the woods because they help you out against the missile units. And many times they'll just give up, like you see here. The enemy is now approaching. You can see that by just checking on the quarrelers and the engineer firing icon, okay? So once you do that, just ensure that you get covered the reload there. Give that bonus to anyone and decrease the melee defense with that skill. Now, here's a really poor example of mine. I'm still going to bombard because I'm like, I don't want to have to micro this later on. But it shouldn't. There's a big, you know, I should have left a couple of them for the end. Now, they're trying to punch through the middle. I would too. But that's why I'm going to try to ensure that my men survive. And that's why you get those upgrades for the melee defense for the miners. So that they actually survive a little bit longer than expected. There we go. Let's move here. Let's move here. If he's closing up, you close up. If he's going on another side, you go on another side. And always make sure that you debuff the enemy lords, because those are a little bit more difficult to deal with. Your dwarven units, they don't have a lot of tools versus single entities in the beginning. It's just great weapons, more infantry. Let me just slow them down completely. The flash bomb really helps there. Because now they're stuck. That's the point. Now they're stuck. They cannot move. They have to be engaged. I could have done it on the approaching groups, you know, of units, but I really didn't want the possibility of my engineer getting way too close, you know? He's already actually not firing because of this. He's obstructed. I didn't notice during the battle, as you can see. So, as soon as you see someone routing, that's good. Look how the archers, that's 4 units of archers just going around against the bombers. And you manage to fight the waves of this army. That's the power of those gyro bombers. Snotling pump wagons, they're annoying, yes, but they don't kill anything. They're units that are supposed to break through and reach your missile units. And the AI does, unfortunately, a very poor job of doing that. So, my quarrelers are going to fire on those units. Even if you end up losing someone, it's fine. This is the battle to do it. Okay, don't worry too much. That was a missed shot, actually. I wish they had spent that ammunition somewhere else. But you can't control everything. Let's lower his melee. And this guy is nearly dead. That's good. I'm gonna move him here. These dwarf warriors are fine. Oh, actually, he's still engaging with the snotling pump wagons. Just make sure, you know, Chaos Dwarfs surprisingly survive really well against those. So let me just bombard there. There we go. Now let's fire against those goblins. Yeah, the lord is gone. Let's attack the other lords. My quarrelers are moving forward. And now, as soon as the one lord is down, go for the next one. Okay, there's always stuff to do with your units, as you can see. get in the habit of not holding your mouse stopped. You know, if your mouse is stopped, if your mouse hand is stopped, then you gotta do something with it. Even if you just spam abilities like I'm spamming. I'm using that ability because it lowers a little bit of their speed, so that they're trapped in fighting an awful battle, actually. I just see there's a lot of armor-piercing units on my end, so I know that I'm going to win that battle. Another thing about Dwarven Resilience is that you can see 10 Dwarf Warriors, you can see 32 Dwarf Warriors, and they're still fighting with plenty of health. They can still survive really well, they're very sturdy, and they're still fighting, and that's exactly why we love the dwarves, right? Because they can survive these sort of battles and just outlast the enemy. Right now, I just want everyone to feel that they are engaged in battle. One solution that I would give here, after one feedback to myself, is that I have an extra unit of miners that should have been covering the quarrelers, and that's it. And I'm going to do that for the next battle.
The might of Karazakarak.
There we go. It's a little bit of a messy battle. I swear this is about the messiest battle that I've found doing my guide. Previously it was much easier because they just fall into two ambushes, and I thought, this is too lucky. So let me find an example where that doesn't happen, so that I can explain how you can actually just go toe-to-toe with stronger greenskins forces. You cannot wait too long because you may have the problems, okay? Now I just selected the replenishment action and then took the settlement, auto-resolved it, and that's why I have one unit lost, okay? So I couldn't record it because it crashed. So sorry about that, guys. But yeah, I selected replenishment after the battle. I didn't lose any units, but I did lose a unit auto-resolving the settlement. Aura of Endurance, and the final one on Thunderer, and also the final ones on Triangulation. This is the sort of basic style that I want in the beginning for me. And I'm getting another Thunderer unit. It's too bad that I don't have 4 recruitment slots, because that would be perfect. Now, you can actually wait for those reinforcements, or you can move forward. Now you actually have some trade agreements, which is excellent. And this is where the gemstones come in handy. I know that you can get trade agreements much more easily if you have resources. But right in the beginning, nothing helps. You don't get a trade agreement even if you go for gemstones first, which is why I've selected or elected not to do that. Okay. Oh, there's a lot of information for this guide. Now, Thorgrim, you can actually take this settlement. You can see that there's an army there because of the campfires. Okay. I'm also gonna auto-resolve this one just to show you how easier it is, you know, how easy actually this start is. It's one of the easiest ones in my opinion, and it's one that I see a lot of people asking for help, so I hope this guide helps. Now, a decision is made here where I want to go for inspirational leader because of the replenishment. Replenishment is always a big problem. So what to get in terms of these, because they're all kind of bad. I like the corruption. It's going to come in handy very later on, okay? And let's go into Iron Willed and Inspiration Leader, and then Inquiring Mind. That's the progress of about until he starts getting his specific stuff. Let's get Ancestral Grudge. And now it's like I said, you can wait, okay? I'm going to recruit a couple of more units. Thunderers. I choose to remove the edict so that I can have some better growth and construction costs. Okay, we want to go for barracks tier 2, and we want to go especially for 2 buildings of income on Mount Squighorn and the Pillars of Grumney. Those settlements need some income buildings. And I no longer need that replenishment and growth building, okay? But for the purposes of this, I'm going to keep it. It's just fine that you know how it works. Now, I just skipped a turn. There we go. That's why we got the militia training, because we really want those miners as you can see, they're very powerful, and we really want those miners to have the strength. Now, this is a variance that only happened here. I'm going to show you. I'm going to jump here. Don't worry. There's nothing there that can face against you. It actually would have been better if they would intercept me and fight. And I'm going to move this guy here, and I'll actually move him in force march. Okay? And what's going to happen is actually something that I didn't predict. It didn't happen on any single time on my other playthroughs, which is that he's going to try to sally out by doing underway stance. So that was interesting, actually. That is going to be interesting. Note that you may have a confederation option with Barak Var. I recommend that you do not do it. Never do this, because it will just bring you to war against Gorbat much sooner. So as I've said, they're actually trying to go underground, and this is perfect. I could auto-resolve and just win the battle, but let's just fight it. This being a guide, let me just show you how to fight it. There's some new elements here, some new units, a little bit of archer power. So instead, I'm just going to fight the battle. So the same disposition, okay, same disposition as before, leaving gaps for our miners with blasting charges. But this time we're going to make that small adjustment. I'm going to put the miners on the back so that I can cover the quarterers and give some assistance to the front line, because of course the biggest problem that I had is that my front line is full of small gaps because I don't have my units fully replenished. This is something that this campaign has. If you want to rush Skarsnik like I'm doing here, you kind of will have he kind of will have they will have a little bit of momentum on their front line, so you want to avoid that. Let's go for versus these goblin archers, and just note that I just discovered there's some night goblin archers there as well. Let's just bombard a few of these units and all will be fine. So yeah, like always, like you've seen me doing a lot of times here, bombard, get some damage done in preparation for them to reach your forces. We want to get rid of any archer units that we can. Let's go versus them. Do note, archers can actually slow your gyrocopters down, so that's sometimes why you're going to notice. It's not laggish. Okay, it's just because they're hitting you and there's a little bit of a retraction on your units. Okay, so be careful with that. Sometimes, oh, that's a missed one. I was actually micromanaging poorly here on this one, but I wanted to use up most of the bombs before the enemy would arrive, just because I really don't want to have to micro too much on these units. Yeah. There we go. Because I know that I cannot do anything against that other army, because it's like 5 or 6 units of archers now. Notice how sluggish they are. That one is sluggish because it's being under attack. So if I'm slow, might as well just do a little bit of damage. I think I shot once. That was poor. But that's just to show you. You can win battles even doing small mistakes here and there, guys. Let me dodge a little bit of the shots. It actually helps. And now I'm just going to micro them a little bit, running away from the enemy missiles and doing some damage to these Sonotline pump wagons. If I can, I'll do the damage to the biggest threat, which is the unit of trolls that you saw from the settlement garrison. There we go. I'm just moving them towards my front line. And now I'm just going to tell everyone to attack actually the trolls, because they're very weak to missile fire actually. Let me give them the damage. And if we manage to get the trolls, most of the other units don't do a thing. You're going to see how this is actually a much easier battle. I think the underground actually helps. The underway battles actually help Skaven and the dwarfs the more. Okay, they are the biggest beneficiaries of this style. In those two, I prefer the dwarfs. I think the dwarfs just dominate underground battles really well because the mechanism is just made for them. Okay. You see the usefulness of this unit of miners. Okay. Let's, as always, reduce the enemy lords or enemy heroes speed. I can actually reduce the speed here. Should I just... This time I'm going to use it on some night goblins, I think. There we go. Let's just give this to some miners. Yeah, there we go. Some blasting charges. That's perfect. Eliminated like a third of damage. And you can see that there's a lot of missile units here from the AI, but they're all slightly weaker. And I'm attacking every single unit there. Be careful with your units breaking off and attacking units that are routing, okay? And right now I want to move these guys and flank with them. Who said that dwarves don't flank? So I'm sending in the one unit of with shields that I have against those infantry units. And now there's some trolls there, so I gotta be careful and target them. And this battle is all but done. As soon as I eliminate some of these units, they're gonna rout. Especially the Lord and Hero. Let's just get more ammunition here. And look how one unit against dwarfs, this is the resilience of dwarfs, by the way. One unit of dwarf warriors and miners are just holding on so well against all of the enemy single entities and infantry units in the middle. Whenever possible, just flank with your troops. Like I said, don't hover, do something with your mouse, okay? Your mouse should always be moving. That way, you're always microing something important. Then the what is best to micro or not, that will come with time, okay? So I did get some replenishment there. And I unlocked the Regiment of Renown, and that's it for this campaign. I'm actually going to leave the timer go on. So, Mount Goombad, you're going to take it. Yeah, very easy auto-resolve here. If not, you can fight it out, and the best way would be with those grudge throwers, okay? So that's also an easy battle overall. You can upgrade here, or you can upgrade here to get the Mount Goombad's gold mine. Lots of missions, but for the most part you achieve them by doing what I'm doing here on the guide, so don't worry. But of course, pay attention to them. I just don't have the time because I'm rushing through the guide to make sure that you guys get a good example. So just with these units and the garrison, you should be able to defend there. And of course, he's going to attack because he has no settlements. Let me just give him some more miners, and that's it. So you always have a few more options to deal with any stragglers, any armies that the Skarsnik may still have, but they're going to attack and they're going to be destroyed. Let me show you some examples. This is turn 10. Skarsnik is no more, and you'll be able to turn on your attention to Gorbad very soon. If you're going against Gorbad, I would advise that you finish up cleaning up and then you go this route. Never go this route. Why? Because the passage is really difficult here. It has very reduced movement, and it may be tempting to get to Black Crag really fast, but it's better that they try to do it. So you keep your second army on Mount Squigorn, and that's how you defend, okay? And you keep Thorgrim just invading Gorbad really fast. So that's the advice for the future. Don't confederate again. You can get a military alliance that will be just money. You can get some trade here with Karakwadrin. It's better to get some good relations with them. And yet, that is it. Let me show you another example. This is turn 8. I managed to conquer. Okay, and this is because they actually fell for 2 ambushes. This is how easy it actually becomes. Okay, and I did things a little bit faster here, just focusing on going 1 turn earlier. They fall for 2 ambushes, and that's perfect. But this is a little bit risky. If you want a safer path, I recommend this one. You get Thorgrim Grudgebearer with the handgun, with the thunderers, and with the catapults, and you destroy them by doing exactly the same idea, just a few turns later. Okay, just basically instead of recruiting all those dwarves warriors with great weapons, you just wait until you're up to recruiting the 2 thunderers and 2 grudge throwers. So yeah, that's about the idea. I'm already with Iron Drakes. I'm still, as you've seen, it's still a good moment. Gorbet has not declared war. They don't have, you know, they're not really going against you very fast, so you still have that time. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one and it helps on your Thorgrim campaigns, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.